Welcome back to Microeconomics. My name is Onwani Godwin. Some of you have been expecting this class and we are trying our best to make sure that it is available as quickly as possible. Okay, now what are we going to talk about today? We're talking about absolute and comparative advantage with an exercise. Absolute and comparative advantage with an exercise. Now this is the beginning of the basis for trade, or let me just say this. This is the beginning of the basis for trade. Why should economies trade with one another, or should they decide to specialize, and so on and so forth. Now from what you are going to learn here, we are going to realize that trade is beneficial to everyone. Like trade can be beneficial to everyone. In fact, trade is better than standing alone or standing aloof of every other economy. And there are a lot of things that we make use of today that are not even produced by us. I'm holding a piece of paper. Who knows where this was produced from? This is a marker not produced in my country, not produced in Nigeria. We have lighting here. So from the bulbs and all of that, those are produced in other countries. We have a board. We have cables, we have the phone I'm using to make this recording, and every other material that's coming to this. So, and all of these things are not produced by me, they are not produced in my country, they are produced in other countries. So there's this form of interdependence that occurs, between people, that occur between countries, or let me say among countries, among people, and so on and so forth. So what are the ones that constitute countries anyway? They are people. So there is a kind of interdependence that we experience, that we share. You that you are looking at me right now, just check the environment you have and list if any of the things in your list, make a list of 5 things around you and check what countries that they were produced from. Are they all produced in your country, or were they all produced in your country? So whatever you are going to use after this period again, so do you want to tell me that it's your country that produces everything? So to a reasonable extent, countries depend on one another for the things that they consume. Now let's come back to what we have today. Absolute and comparative advantage with an exercise. So the first thing is, let's even start, what is trade? What is trade? And trade is basically the exchange of goods and services between 2 or more parties, right? Okay, and we are talking about international trade, that is trade between 2 or more countries, and so on and so forth. Now let's come to what is absolute advantage. So what is absolute advantage? Absolute advantage is the production of goods and services using fewer resources than other people. Now let me talk about them in terms of countries now. So absolute advantage would mean the production of goods and services by a country using fewer resources than every other country does. So absolute advantage is just talking about having a cheap cost of production, a relatively cheap cost of production. So I say relatively because it simply means in comparison to others. So while comparing the cost of production of a country on whatever produce it is trying to produce with the one of other countries trying to manufacture that same product. So while comparing them, so who has the lower or the lowest or the least? So if there are 2 countries now, lower cost of production. If there are more than 2 countries, the least cost of production. So now absolute advantage is talking about the production of goods and services using the least cost relatively, like compared to other countries or compared to other producers. Alright, so now the B is saying, what is comparative advantage? Now comparative advantage is basically the production of goods using the least opportunity cost. The production of goods using the least opportunity cost. Now what is opportunity cost? Opportunity cost, as you already know by now, is the expression of cost in terms of alternatives, and that is big grammar, that's English. Now opportunity cost is simply what you forgo in order to have what you currently have. So that is just it. So now I'm here right now, I'm rendering you a service. So what have I forgone? Probably my sleep. Today is a Saturday, today is a weekend. I would have enjoyed sleeping. So I'm forgoing my sleep for what I'm doing right now. So what I've forgone is my sleep. That's my opportunity cost of having this particular class, of rendering this service to you. Okay, and you that are listening to me right now, so you also have things that you've forgone in order to attend to this class. So it might be your sleep as well, it might be other productive activities, it might be football. Maybe you want to view today's match, Real Madrid. No, not today's match. You want to view a match at a particular time or whatever it is. Right. So all of those things that you decided to leave behind because you want to make it to viewing this class, those things are classified as your opportunity cost. But then we just make things simpler for ourselves. So that's opportunity cost. Now, what is the basis of trade? Now, what is the basis? Now, should we trade because we have the least cost of production, or we should trade because what we are foregoing is the least? That is, should we trade on the basis of having the least cost of production, or the foregone, or having the least opportunity cost? Now, if my being here simply means I'm foregoing a meeting with, who knows, in California, and maybe a launching of something, or maybe maybe there is an award ceremony I'm supposed to attend, where I'm going to be given an accolade for sure, and I've decided to take this class. Okay, now the thing is, having this class might be very cheap for me. In fact, I'm very close to the venue that I'm making use of. The data cost might be very cheap compared to what other people might be making use of, but I'm foregoing a big event in California. Now let's talk about a different person who has to maybe travel down here to take this particular class, transportation costs and everything like that. So this person, the person either has to take this class or sleep. Okay, he either has to take this class or sleep. So we then look at it. Now he is going to incur a higher cost of production than I am incurring, because I have the facilities and probably they are being subsidized by somebody, but I'm foregoing something. I'm foregoing a big event. Now the other person, what the person is foregoing is sleep. So we then look at it, who is giving up the most? So if the event that I'm foregoing means more to me than the sleep of the other individual, then do you think I should still take this class despite that I have the lower cost of production despite that I have the lower cost of production with regards to that person? So what do you think? What do you think? Might be thinking, come on, why don't you just leave it for this other person? Like, are you stupid? Are you this? Are you that? So why don't you have that meeting in California? It's once in a lifetime something. You don't know when it's going to come up again and this and that. So you should. So you probably are going to advise me to attend the meeting and then leave the class. Probably have to pay this other person to take this class that you're enjoying now. So all of these things then bring us into the discussion on absolute and comparative advantage. Now I have an absolute advantage in taking this class because my cost of production is cheaper than the other person that is coming to take it. But then should I take the class when I'm foregoing something big, and when what the other tutor is foregoing is not as big as what I am foregoing? No. So should I forgo this class? Yes, of course I should forgo this class. So I should be in California and the other person should be taking this class right now. And that makes us understand that what the basis for trade is actually comparative advantage, not absolute advantage. Now the fact that you can do a lot of activities, you are multitasking, you are multi-talented, you are gifted in many things. So the fact that all of this is happening doesn't mean that you should engage yourself in those activities. No. So your engagement in those activities should depend on what you are not doing. So what you are refusing to do because of what you are currently doing. So if you like football, basketball, you like sports, you like running, you like chilling out with your friends and a lot of things, you like doing a lot of things. But then should you do those things? So what you have to think about then is, what am I not doing? Is it studying for my examinations? So is it attending an interview? Is it preparing for an interview? Is it attending a board meeting? Is it having a nice time with my family? So those are the things that you should consider before engaging yourself in any activity that you think you are talented in doing, or you are gifted in doing, or you really want to do. So check, what are you losing? So that's why opportunity cost is calculated as loss over gain. So loss over gain. So whatever you are losing divided by whatever you are gaining. Now we are going to bring all of this into something that is measurable, just to make, economics makes a lot of assumptions, so just to make life easier for ourselves. So we assume that these things are measurable. My sleep is measurable, maybe it's cost me so amount of naira, this and that, just to make us understand what we are trying to do. Now, having discussed all those things, so I then have an exercise. So the exercise is, suppose that Lydia and Chisom each have 8 hours a day to produce fish or raise cattle or both. Lydia can produce a kilogram of fish and meat in 15 minutes and 60 minutes respectively. Chisom can produce a kilo, which is also a kilogram. In Nigeria here we just say a kilo and everybody understands. So Chisom can produce a kilo of fish and meat in 10 minutes and 20 minutes respectively. How many of both goods can Lydia and Chisom produce? A, without trade; B, with trade. A without trade, B with trade. So now the first is saying that Chisom and Lydia decide to stay on their own. They decide to stay aloof from every other economy. Let me do it myself. This attitude, I can do it myself. I don't need anybody. And so let's see if these people really don't need anybody. Alright, so I've expressed everything that looks like English grammar here. This is more of like a comprehension passage. So I've expressed them in things that we can work with. So Lydia, we have meat. This is meat. This is column for meat for fish. This is the time it takes them. In this particular case, we are talking about their resources. Is the resource that they are making use of now is their time. We are assuming that there are no other resource. so their time, then the output that they will produce in 8 hours. Now remember that the question says, suppose that Lydia and Chisom each have 8 hours. So each have 8 hours. So that means that is the total number of time they have. Now, so Lydia now, the question 60, where is Lydia again? Lydia can produce a kilogram of fish and meat in 15 minutes, fish and meat 15 minutes and 60 minutes respectively. Then Chisom in 10 minutes for fish and 20 minutes for meat respectively. Now, the thing is, in 8 hours, what would each of these people produce? Now, if Lydia chooses to be self-reliant or self-sufficient, and she decides to spend all of her 8 hours producing meat, remember that she can produce meat in 60 minutes per kilogram. So if she spends all of her 8 hours producing, this is like an hour already. So for Lydia, so 60 minutes is equal to 1 hour, right? So she can produce she uses 1 hour to produce 1 kilo of fish. So how many is she going to produce in 8 hours if she spends all of her 8 hours on this? So that's going to give us 8 kilograms of fish. So let me just leave it as 8 kilo. So fish should be having 8 here. Alright, of fish. Now no, I've mixed things up. 60 minutes per it's going to be 8 here. This should be of meat. This should be of meat. Alright, so then let's talk about fish. So Lydia can produce fish 15 minutes per kilo. So for fish, so 15 minutes per kilo, right? Per kilo. So 15 minutes is same as, let's try to express this in hours. So if 1 hour is 60 minutes, then 15 minutes is going to be 1/4. Okay, 1/4 of an hour. 15 is 1/4 of an hour. So this is the same thing as 1/4 hours of 1 kilo. For people that don't know this, 60 minutes equals make 1 hour. So 15 minutes equals x. So you cross multiply equal to. So you have 60x equals 15 divided by 60, and then x is equal to 1/4 hours. So that's what we mean. So 1/4 hours. So that means you can use 1/4 of an hour to produce 1 kilo of fish. So let me say meat. Yeah. 1 kilo of fish. Now, how many kilo of fish is she going to produce in 8 hours? So now we are assuming that she's not spending any time on meat. So she's spending all of her 8 hours on fish. She's not spending any time on meat now. Yeah, she's spending all of her 8 hours on fish. So if in 1/4 of an hour she produces 1 kilo, so let me just write it again. So in this equal to one. Let me just say 1 fish. So now in 8 hours, she produces what? We cross multiply. So we have 1/4 x equals 8 over 1. So x then equals 32. So she'll be producing 32 kilo of fish in 8 hours. So if she decides that I want to spend all of my 8 hours producing meat, she'll be producing 8 kilo of meat, and all of my 8 hours producing fish, she'll be producing 32 kilo of fish without producing meat at all. Now, what about Chisom? What's going to happen to Chisom? So for meat, okay, so Chisom can produce 1 kilo of meat in 20 minutes. So that means 20 minutes is simply, if you do it the same way, so 20 minutes is going to be 1/3 hours. So she can produce 1 kilo of, let me say 1 meat in 1/3 hours. So then in 8 hours, what is she going to produce? And just equals to x. So we have 1/3x equals 8, and then x will give us, so x equals 24. So it will be producing 24 kilo of meat in 8 hours, and we're producing no fish at all. Now let's assume now that Chisom is spending all of her 8 hours on fish. So for fish, Chisom then has 10 minutes is going to be 1/6 of an hour. So 1/6 hours to produce 1 fish. Are we talking about fish now? Okay, 1 fish. Good. So in 8 hours, x. So we have 1/6. Now you just cross multiply. 1/6x equals 8. Then x equals 48. Yeah, 6 times 8 is 48. Alright, so x equals 48. So we are going to plot this on our PPC. There's also, this is one of the things that they could choose to do. They could decide that, okay, I'm going to produce only meat using all of my 8 hours, and I'm going to produce only fish using all of my 8 hours. Or, since they don't want to trade, since they are not trading, since they are not open to trade, okay, they could decide to say, let me just divide my hours into 2. So in 4 hours, I'll devote 4 hours to, Chisholm and Lydia could be that, okay, they will devote 4 hours to the production of each of the commodities. They are not trading. They are, this particular case now, they are, if they decide to produce only meat, so they will only have 8 and 24. There will be no fish at all. All right, and if they decide to spend all of their 8 hours on the production of fish, there will be 32 and 48, and there will be no meat at all. Okay, do you understand? Now, so what is going to happen? So there's this other alternative that they could make use of, which is to spend 4 hours respectively on 4 hours each on the production of these commodities. So when they spend 4 hours each, that means they'll be able to enjoy some amount of meat and some amount of fish. So should we do that first? Now, if they are spending 4 hours each, now remember that this is for 8 hours, right? So 8 hours per product. So if they are spending 4 hours per product, let me just 4 hours per product. So let me just put a division here. So the total output now. So this is 8 hours, the entire 8 hours for Lydia. So if she's spending 4 hours to produce this, then this is going to be 4, like it's half. If she spends half of her time, half of the 8 hours producing meat, so she'll be producing okay, let me say meat and then fish. Okay, so this is Lydia, and this is Chisholm. Lydia and Chisholm. So if they are spending 8 hours, so that means they will be able to produce half of what they would have produced when they were spending 8 hours. So this would have been 4 meats, and this would have been 32 divided by 2, that means 16 kilo of fish. Then 24 here. So Chisholm is spending 4 hours on this now, which is 12. That will be 12 kilo of meat, and then 24 kilo of fish. So in this particular case now, spending 4 hours respectively on the production of each of the products is going to make them to consume both products. So instead of here where they have the choice between either meat or fish, so that is, if they are consuming meat, they can't consume fish, since everything that you are doing is to devote all of your 8 hours into the production of only one of the commodity. So instead of them having this, now dividing their hours into 2 is going to give them this result. So Lydia, for example, I think that's the first person, will be able to consume 4 kilo of meat and 16 kilo of fish, and then Chisholm will be able to consume 12 kilo of meat and 24 kilo of fish. So we are going to sketch the PPC right now that is going to depict all of these things. Here now. So I'm going to sketch all of this here, but I want you to follow what I'm going to do. Now, first is, what is PPC? This is production possibility curve, or production possibility frontier. So it could be called PPF as well, production possibility frontier. Now, it is simply the curve that shows the different combinations of two goods that a producer can produce, with a given level of technology, while making the best use or the efficient use of the resources available. Now, the producer in this sense could be an individual, and the producer in this sense could be a country. Okay, in our example, we are going to be sketching the PPC of 2 individuals, 2 producers, but in other cases they might be for countries. All right, so that is what a PPC is about. Then we have a consumption possibility curve as well, or a consumption possibility frontier. So it's just the reverse of this, which is the different combinations of 2 goods that can be consumed by 2 people or something like that. Now, so back to our example, I think I'm going to be moving out of the board a little bit. So here, this is origins. Whenever you are sketching your graphs, make sure that you include the important things. Whatever is on the vertical axis must be stated. Whatever is on the horizontal axis must be stated. So we have this and this. The title of your graphs, you must put the title of your graphs. And then origin 0, so you must make sure that the origin, we have the origin there as well. So now what we have is we are going to be having, so I was saying that you have to make sure that your meat, I said meat, don't mind me, it's not meat. Whatever you are putting on the vertical axis must be stated clearly in your graphs. Then on the horizontal axis as well, then the origin and the title of your graph must be carefully stated or clearly stated. So Now, I want to start sketching all of these things from the beginning when the two of them were utilizing 8 hours. 8 hours. So for Lydia, if Lydia spent all of her 8 hours in the production of meat, so she would have 8 kilo of meat. So she would have 8 kilo of meat and 0 kilo of fish. 0. So we have 0 and 0 will be intersecting 8 for meat along a point along this. So let me just put it here. Let me see this point. So this we are our graph is not measured to scale, so just leave it away. And so we have 0 and 8. Now the next thing is, if she decides to spend all of her 8 hours in the production of fish, so she'll be having 32 kilo of fish. So you can just put that here. 32 kilo of fish and 0 kilo of meat. So meat is going to be 0, and then we trace 32 to the fish axis, which is this axis. So we can just say this. Then we join these lines. So we join this line. So let's say that is what we have. So this is a PPF or a PPC if she decides not to trade and she decides to spend all of her 8 hours. So we'll be having 8 here, and then we'll be having 32 here. She decides to spend all of her 8 hours on the production of each commodity. But now that we are saying that, of course, she won't want to consume only meat or only fish. So dividing her time into 2 and spending 4 hours respectively will bring her to this position, to this combination. So 4 kilo of meat and 16 kilo of fish. So that's 4 kilo of meat. This is the meat axis, all right? So 4 is going to be somewhere in the middle. So we have 4 here, then 4, then bringing it here and tracing this down. So let's say 16. Now let's say this is a desirable position, all right? Now since she's not trading at all, and she wants to consume the 2 commodities, so 4 of this and 16 of this. Now we'll replicate what we've done here for Chisom. Now, if Chisom decides to produce only meat, so he's going to be having 24 kilo of meat and nothing of fish, so 0 of fish. So there will be 0 of fish, 0 of this, there will be nothing on this axis, and 24 of meat. So we trace meat, let's say 24 is here, this 24 is there, and then if Chisom decides to produce only fish, so we are going to be having nothing of meat, nothing on this axis, then 48 of fish. So we are having 48 of fish. So let me say 48 is here. Remember that we are not plotting this to scale. So you have something like this. Okay, something like this. Don't mind my diagram. So here we'll be having 24, and here we'll be having 48. But since this is not a desirable position, Chisom is dividing his time, or Chisom is dividing our time into 2. So we have. So this is what we are going to make use of. Maybe this is the third combination, which is actually the real thing that is happening when 4 hours is being spent in the production of the 2 goods respectively. So we're having 12 kilo of meat, which is 12 kilo of meat, 12 kilo of meat, and we'll be having 24 kilo of fish. So then this is what we have for the 2 of them. So this is their PPF without trade. Yeah. Now let's move to the other part of the question, which says with trade. And you know that I've established the fact that, or let me say we, because you were listening anyway. Let's say we have already established the fact that comparative advantage is the basis for trade. All right. So now what we are going to do is to calculate the opportunity cost of these people to know who should specialize in what. Now, calculating the opportunity cost is not a big deal. It's not a big deal at all. So we come here. If they have spent all of their 8 hours in the production of any of the commodities, so we come here and we use this to calculate what the opportunity cost should be. Remember that I said opportunity cost is whatever is lost divided by whatever is gained. So loss over gain. But I'm going to do something simply here, because we can't just compare. We can't make comparisons here. So saying that if Lydia produces 8, she will be giving up 32 kilo of fish, and if Chisom produces 24, will be giving 48. We can't compare this because they are not the same. So what I'm just going to do is to express them in units that we can compare. So I'll just divide through by, for Lydia, I'll divide this through by 8, divided by 8, divided by 8. So here we'll be having 1, and here we'll be having 4. Okay, 1 will be having 4. Then I divide this through by 24. You see what I'm trying to arrive at 24, and I will divide this through by 24 as well. So we'll be having 1 here, we'll be having 2 here. So now we can divide. So this is like 1:4. If Lydia decides to produce a kilo of meat, she'll be giving up 4 kilo of fish. And if Chisom decides to produce a kilo of meat, she would also be giving up 2 kilos of fish. So now comparing the opportunity cost, who should produce what? Now Lydia, if Lydia decides to produce a kilo of meat, she is giving up the production of 4 kilos of fish. Now this for Chisom is giving up just 2. So who is giving up the least? Whose opportunity cost is who is giving up the lower opportunity cost? So I shouldn't use the least because we are talking about 2 producers. So the person giving up the lower opportunity cost, the person foregoing the less here is Chisom, because for Chisom to produce 1 kilo of meat, she is only foregoing 2 kilos of fish. So it will be better for Chisom to specialize in the production of meat, because Chisom is giving less, relatively, like less compared to what Lydia is giving up. Alright, so Chisom should specialize. We trade now. We trade. B with trade. So Chisom should specialize in meat. Let me just say Chisom equals meat. I think Chisom must like meat pretty much. Okay, then the other one as well. So let's check the reverse. Now the reverse is if this I could divide by, okay, let me say, let's change this. We could make it of what we already had, but let's change this. So let's say I want to express our result in terms of fish. So this will be over 32 divided by, okay, this will be divided by 48 divided by 48. So here we have 1 over 4 for one of this, and here we have, I think, half for this is 40, this is 48 for one of this. Now trying to check who should produce fish. If Lydia decides to produce a kilo of fish, she's giving up a quarter kilo of meat, and if Chisom decides to produce a kilo of fish, she'll be giving up half quarter of meat. So who is giving up the less? So the person giving up less is Lydia. A quarter is smaller than half. So Lydia should specialize in the production of, what are we taking now? The production of fish. Alright, so Lydia should be straight now. So let me just say something like this. Lydia should specialize in the production of fish. So now let us see what we are going to have if this happens. Now there is an initial assumption. There's another assumption that Lydia will be spending 8 hours. Lydia will be spending all over 8 hours in the production of. And what is she specializing in? In the production of fish. And then Chisom will be spending 6 hours in the production of fish, and just in the production of meat that she's meant to specialize in, and then the remaining 2 hours in the production of fish. Now we've already made the calculation for Lydia before here. So spending all about 8 hours to be producing 32 kilograms of fish. So I can just say equals 32 here. So and that's about that. Now because she's spending all about 8 hours in production of fish, she's producing nothing. When we talk about meat, is producing, so our kilo of meat is going to be 0. Now for Chisom is spending 6 hours in the production of meat now that she is meant to specialize in. So what we just have to do is, for meat, Chisom can produce a kilo of meat in 20 minutes. So how many would she be able to produce in 6 hours? So 20 minutes is the same thing as 1 over 3 hour. So it's the same thing as 1 over 3 hour. So which is equal to like a kilo of, let me just say meat, a kilo of meat. So I can just say 6 hours, in 6 hours equals x. So we cross multiply, and then we have 1 over 3x equals 6, and then x equals 18. So that means now she'll be able to produce 18 kilogram of, I'm thinking for Chisom, right? 18 kilogram of meat, 18 kilogram of meat. And let's continue. How about okay, let me just plot something. So we have meat. Let me just say this is Lydia, this is Chisom. So we have meat, and then we have fish. So here Lydia has 0 here, 32 here, okay, and Chisom has 18 here. I think it's no, do I have to think? It's 18 of meat, right? Then the remaining 2 hours. Now let's check what is the rate for Chisom here. So Chisom spends 10 minutes per kilo. 10 minutes per kilo. 10 minutes is same as 1 over 6 hours. So 1 over 6 hours to produce a kilo of fish. A kilo of fish. So in 2 hours, what is she going to produce? So we just cross multiply. So when we cross multiply, this is 1 over 6 x equals 2, and then x equals 12. So she can produce 12 kilo of fish in 2 hours. 12 kilo of fish in 2 hours. Then let us make comparison. So this is what we have after trade. They've not actually traded, but I'm going to show that in a bit. So we have this result, and then we have when they divided their time into half, like using 4 hours specialized in production of meat and fish respectively. So we can see that Lydia has 4 kilo of meat here, and here she has 0. Then she has 16 kilo of fish there, she has 32 over here. Chisom had 4 kilo of meat over there, here she's having 18, and then 24 kilo of fish there, and here she's having 12. So now, because this is with trade, so there can be a form of trading. Chisom could say, okay, Lydia, I'm going to sell 5 kilo of meat to you. Since you don't have any meat at all, I'll send 5 kilo of meat to you in exchange for 15 kilo of fish, rather 15 kilo of fish. So here you have 5 is going here, so you have a minus 5 from this guy, you have a plus 5 here for 15 of this. So you have 32, you have 17, you have 15 going from here, so this is minus 15 and this is plus 15. So our final answer now is going to be this person is going to be 5. Let me write it in a big way. 5. I don't think we will need this again. So this is going to be 5, then this is 17. This is going to 18 minus 5 is 13, and then 12 plus 15 is 27. 12 plus 15 is 27. Now let's compute the total. Here the total when they didn't specialize was 4 plus 12 is 16. So 16 kilo of meat, and 16 plus 24 is 40 kilo of fish. So what do we have here after they've done some form of exchange? 5 plus 13 is going to give us 18. So 18 kilo of meat, and then 17 plus 27 will give us 44. So this is 44 kilo of fish. By the time we sum up the two, we'll be having 62 kilo. Can we go sum them up? No, we can't. We can't because these are different commodities. So let's just leave them. So this is 16 and 40. So like 16,40, like you're writing coordinates, and 18,44. So of course 18 is better than 16, and then 44 kilo of fish is better than 40 kilo of fish. So this is a better position. Now let us check individually. Are these new combinations better than when they weren't trading? So here, Lydia wasn't producing any meat at all because she spent all of her hours producing fish. But now she's able to consume 5 kilo of meat because she was able to do some exchange. And previously, she was only able to consume 4 kilo of meat. So which means trade is better here. Then let us check what's happening here. So here that she's just producing fish. So before she was able to consume 16, she was producing 16 kilo of fish, which was what she was also consuming as well because she wasn't trading. And now that she's trading, she's able to consume one more kilo of fish. So you have 17 and 16 there, so 17 is better. Let us check for Chisom. Before trading, Chisom was only able to produce and consume 12 kilo of meat, but now we have 13 kilo of meat, so 13 is better than 12. And she was able to produce and consume 24 kilo of fish over there, but with trade now, she is able to consume 27 kilo of fish. So trade is making her better. Trade is making the two of them better than when they weren't trading. So let us replicate our result on this graph. So I will do so for Lydia. Lydia is 5 now. So this is for Lydia. We are going to be having 5 kilo of meat, right? So we come to the meat axis. So we have 5 kilo of meat over here, and then 17 kilo of fish. So this is the fish axis. So 17. So 17. Let's put our 17 here, for example. Let's put it here. Remember that we are not plotting our graph to scale. So let's just take it that way. So this was A initially, I think so, and then this is A kind of A prime. So this person is able, Lydia is able to consume more than she was producing initially. How about Chisom? So Chisom here is 13. So for meat, where is the meat axis? This is the meat axis. So we have 13 now. Let me say 13 is here. And then we have 27 kilo of fish now. So let's just put 27 here as well. Then we trace the 2 point out. So we can see that this is outside the initial PPC or PPF. So this was B earlier, then this is B prime now. So trade is making the two of them better out. You could have noticed that I was saying produce and consume. So that's because initially before trade, whatever a country or whatever a producer produced was the same thing that it consumed, right? Because it wasn't trading, it wasn't giving anything out in exchange, it wasn't receiving anything in exchange. But now that there is trade, so consumption now is already greater than what was produced initially. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. Make sure that you like this video, subscribe to this channel, tell your friends about it, your teachers, even your enemies. When they are busy with videos like this, they won't be able to disturb you. No, that was a joke, don't worry. So see you in the next video.